Hello and welcome to the table, Baldurs Gate and DND friends. Have a seat, grab your favorite drink, and settle in for a unique modded character build and subclass of the Paladin. This is also a very unique and special character roleplay-wise, and this has a thematic elemental type to it as well. Specifically, this is a class that combines the offensive raw power of storms and cold with the defensive potential of a Paladin. This episode will be going through all 12 levels of the Oath of Storms subclass. Huge credits to the mod author Blue Joe 1 for taking the time and effort to bring this class to life. The theme of this build is a lot different from the traditional Holy Order type of Paladin, and something to note is that even though the mod author themselves has stated this is their homebrewed class, in my personal opinion it is 100% lore friendly and fits perfectly within the realm of D&D and Baldur's Gate. Yes, I know there's some people in the D&D community in particular that homebrew is technically to each dungeon master's discretion whether it is canon / lore friendly, but hey, really the features and tenets of this class seamlessly fit well into the world. Now, to quote the mod author, the tenets of the Oath of Storm is as follows. Strike like lightning, be swift, be fast, and most importantly of all, be decisive. Positive conducting, let your unwavering energy surge into all of those around you, so they may be transformed into something greater. Thunderous guardianship, be a stalwart defender, a thunderous herald protecting the vulnerable with unyielding commitment. So yes, you still do have that protective aura of a paladin, but you're more so relying on the raw power of nature, and it fits the description that the mod author said in their mod page as well. That being a storm knight of legend. Now, for those who are new to this channel, one of my main focuses for videos is creating unique Baldur's Gate 3 characters using mods both for enhancement and roleplay, specifically giving you more different ways of replayability. If that is something you are really into, I would love to hear your personal favorite character builds in the comments below, and let's get a discussion going on what characters you would specifically build this class around, what you would multi-class this with, or also different character build requests. Side note, I do also have videos of narrative-driven Total War Warhammer campaigns of both modded and non-modded factions to tell unique stories as well, so if you love talking shop about character builds in either Baldur's Gate or D&D, or even epic story-driven war campaigns, I'd love to have you consider hitting the like, subscribe, and bell icon notifications so I can take you along for those adventures. Now, also for new videos who have stumbled upon this video, the way we will structure this character build is going through first the starting level with specific choices in race and other beginning features. We'll also be going through levels 2 through 12 solely as this class by itself, and also wrapping up with specific gear and equipment to complement the build in terms of roleplay or improving stats and spells. Now, when it comes to character builds, I do mainly stick with choices in abilities, spells, and equipment that suit characters thematically or roleplay wise, and also keeping in line with the modded class. However, I sometimes may slip into choosing quote-unquote choices that are metagamey or min-maxes in damage output, or that are just overall strategic. I am aware in the D&D and Baldur's Gate communities, there are players that really go all in on min-maxing. In fact, I was definitely one of those players whenever I would get in my 5th edition campaigns, or especially Pathfinder too. But really, just as long as you as the player are having fun with these builds and playstyles, regardless of whether you want to min-max or if you just want to roleplay a character and not have to worry about damage output, that's what really matters in the end, is just having overall a load of fun. Now, here is a specific note I do want to address as well. The reason I'm going through all 12 levels only as this class is to truly showcase everything that there is to offer, and also as a way to say thank you to the mod author. Also, of course, as an added thank you, I will of course leave the link to the mod in the pinned comment below, along with some other mods such as race or spell mods used to pair with the modded class as well. We definitely will be saving separate videos for multi-classing modded characters together with this class, or also pairing this class with base game classes to truly create different types of synergies. Like I said before too, let me know in the comments what you would personally pair this class with if you were to multi-class. But also, I do want to give a personal thank you again to the mod author, and to showcase it, it's going through all 12 levels, not dipping into any other classes. But I will say, I'm already thinking about some of the wild combinations that this subclass could pair with, such as with my other modded classes, like Circle of Storm Chasers Druid. I can only imagine the auras and also like the insane damage output that both could really bring out of each other. But without further ado, let's get into the very first level of this build. So at starting level, the race that I'm using is actually a modded race that brings the elemental Genasi from 5th edition into Baldurs Gate 3, and yes, I will say this is technically a lore-friendly race. A little bit of backstory on who the Genasi are they are plain touch humanoids. Genasi are often born when an elemental entity, such as a genie, has a child with a humanoid. Genasi may also be born from regular humanoids, which can occur if their parents lived in the vicinity of portals connecting the planes. And specifically, the subrace that you'll be choosing for this build is Air Genasi, but really you could go with some of the other Genasis too, especially Water Genasi. But also for roleplay, thematic, and also a little bit of strategy purposes here, I'm going to choose Air Genasi, which gives us imbued traces of the elemental plane of air and also actions of Cyclone. It does say unleash your inner genie, but you essentially unleash a tornado on your enemies. Cantrips of Shocking Grasps, dealing 1 to 8 damage of lightning, and also making your target not being able to use reactions. Plus also, this gives advantage on creatures wearing metal armor. We have Fleet of Foot, giving us movement speed increased by 1.5 meters, and also resistance to lightning damage. So some of the main actions and features of the Oath of the Storm Paladin is Storm's Embrace, master the Storm's power, gain flight, cold damage based on your charisma modifier, and gain temporary hit points equal to your charisma modifier plus your paladin level to defy those bold enough to challenge you. The duration increases with your paladin level, and this lasts for 2 turns. The main feature at first level is Tempest Embodiment. Your oath binds you to the very essence of the elements. A thin layer of air surrounds your body. When you aren't wearing armor, your dex and charisma are added to your armor class. These are incredibly powerful actions and features too at very much starting level, and the fact that cold damage and also, well, your AC is based solely on those 2 abilities. Well, we'll definitely get into the point allocation here in a second, but it's very powerful, generous of the mod author to include those, and it really gives you an incentive to really dive headfirst and commit to this class too. As a side note too, I am using a mod that adds deities to the game. These are just mainly for roleplay purposes and don't really add too insane features or game-breaking abilities either. But for the deity, I decided to choose Talos, representing the uncaring and destructive force of nature. His followers see life as a set of random effects in a sea of chaos and take what they can. Or who can say when Talos will strike next? Really just fits into the theme of being an unrelenting force on the battlefield. As for background, I know this seems a little metagamey, but since we are dumping points essentially into our dexterity modifier, I decided to choose Urchin, which gives us the skills of Sleight of Hand and stealth, very useful skills if you want to be a mad lad kleptomaniac. But also you could justify it as you saying that you were essentially like someone on the streets until you decided to take upon the storm and wrath of nature for yourself as your patron deity. As for ability point allocation, you will be taking points away from strength and intelligence. The subclass really doesn't rely on them as much, plus also the features and actions really favor dexterity and charisma, so it only makes sense that you pour most if not all of your points into those two abilities. Constitution can be given the scraps of those points, so then you can have a respectable amount of health at starting level, and also wisdom you want to leave alone for will saving throws. As for the specific skill proficiencies, the remaining two that you'll pick are intimidation and persuasion. These I personally really like a lot. Essentially you become the face and the person who talks the most in your party. At level 2 we gain a fighting style and also a couple of spells of our choice. For the fighting style, I personally like blind fighting, which is added by a combat mod, but also you could argue that archery could be useful here too, especially with your weapon of Spell Jolter, which we'll talk about later on. As for your spell book, you can have your own personal choices here if you want a different playstyle from mine, but for me, I really like heroism to give us those temporary hit points, compelled duel to make enemies have disadvantage on our allies, cure wounds as a little support spell for our friends, shield of faith as another support spell for ourselves or our friends, and also thunderous smite for an offensive spell to deal 2d6 thunder damage and also possibly knocking them prone too. At level 3, alongside with the feature of Divine Health, which prevents the disease from affecting us, we gain the action of Stormcaller, specific to the subclass itself, dealing 5 to 19 damage. As a bonus action, your weapon calls upon the storm to strike down your foes. You can call on either the forces of Ice, Thunder, or Lightning. We also gain the spells of Thunder Wave to deal 2d8 thunder damage, releasing a form of thunderous force pushing away all creatures and objects, and also create or destroy water, which is also going to be very useful for some of the features of our equipment. As for the race specific features at this level, for our air Genasi, we gain Featherfall. You and nearby allies gain immunity to falling damage, Gust of Wind to push enemies back and forcing them off balance, and also the Hollow Bones Transmutation cantrip. While not capable of true flight, your connection to the elemental plane of air allows you to briefly manipulate the air around you. For the duration, jump distance is tripled, and you take 0 damage from falling. The added spell here, you can add protection from evil and good, which can be very useful for later levels too, and also when fighting against the forces of the Nine Hells. At level 4, for the extra spell choice here, I personally like picking Divine Favor. Weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 4 radiant damage for 3 turns, basically just giving you even more damage, especially useful for early game. And this is a very specific feat that I'm going to choose here. This is Elven Accuracy, which is added by one of the mods that enhances different feats. The accuracy of elves is legendary, especially that of elf archers and spellcasters. You have uncanny aim with attacks that rely on precision rather than brute force. Gain the following benefits of increasing dex, intelligence, wisdom, or in our case, charisma by 1, rounding us out to a respectable 18. Whenever you have advantage on an attack roll using dexterity or charisma, you can reroll one of the dice. So it's pretty useful for early game, in my personal opinion. At level 5, we gain an extra attack bonus action feature, and also an extra spell for the subclass, specifically Shatter, dealing 3 to 24 damage of thunder, damage to all nearby creatures and objects. Creatures made of inorganic material such as stone have disadvantage on their saving throw. As for the prepared spells, I would personally pick Prayer of Healing to heal all allies we can see 6 to 20 hit points, and also for an offensive spell, Magic Weapon. Infuse any weapon with arcane energy. The weapon becomes magical, receiving +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls. At level 6, not really much is shown here, but we gain Aura of Protection, and also, personally, I would choose Branding Smite, making it so that enemies possibly can't turn invisible. Now, level 7 is when we get to 3 main actions for the subclass specifically. With Aura of Frostscale, we emit an aura that freezes the air around us. You and your allies receive damage reduction based on your Charisma modifier. Enemies are slowed by 1.5 meters while in the area. This is overall like a really good battlefield control class action here, but also, taking a look at the other two, it's really tempting to switch off between these three, just because with Aura of Stormkin, we emit an aura of electricity that dances around friends and foes. You and your allies gain a bonus action. Weapon receives a divine charge of energy when it's thrown, and it can come back to you. With Aura of Tempestborn, emit an aura that gathers storms around you. You and your allies receive bonus thunder damage based on your Charisma modifier, plus half of your Paladin level. Enemies gain disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. So you have to decide which one you want to pick over the other. So you can have battlefield control and slow down enemies with this. You can gain bonus actions and also a fun feature of getting your weapons back to you, or also dealing thunder damage specifically with this one. It's a huge toss-up, but for me, I personally would probably pick Aura of Tempestborn for the most part. Let me know as well which one of these three that you would pick, depending on your playstyle and battle tactics. And also, at this specific level, I personally like picking Protection from Poison, all around a good spell to help you with a status effect. At level 8, for your extra spell, I like Lesser Restoration to cure your allies from disease, poison, paralysis, or blindness. Just like I said before with Protection from Poison, an all-around good status effect cure and buff to you and the entire party. Basically, just team player spells at this level. And also, for the ability improve, for the feat, I would personally pick Ability Improvement to max out our Charisma, which will help us out with our spellcasting a lot, and also specifically with our AC bonus here too. Because like I said in the beginning, our AC or armor class and ability to dodge attacks relies more so on Charisma and Dexterity instead of just armor itself. At level 9, for the spell choices here, I would pick Blinding Smite to possibly blind your enemies and also deal 3d8 radiant damage, and also Spirit Shroud to deal 3 to 24 damage of either cold, necrotic, or radiant, calling for its spirits to surround you, and also preventing enemies from regaining their hit points. But the spells that we gain at this level specific to the subclass are Sleep Storm and Call Lightning. With Call Lightning, we deal 3 to 30 damage. Lightning strikes all targets within range. Then for 10 turns, you can call down lightning again without expending a spell slot. And yeah, no, that's pretty much a very powerful area of effect spell to have on you. And it will pair well with a lot of the features from our equipment here, which focuses on lightning-based attacks. With Sleet Storm, we call forth a storm that disrupts concentration of spellcasters, douses fires, and creates an ice surface. Essentially a massive battlefield control spell, and it's a nice anti-mage spell as well. At level 10, we gain Aura of Courage. You and nearby allies can't be frightened. And also, for the prepared spells, I would personally pick Warden of Vitality. While this aura lasts, cast Restore Vitality as a bonus action to heal yourself or nearby allies, and remove Curse, again, pairing well with the bonus status effect, and being a good team player for your party. At level 11, we gain Improved Divine Smite, dealing an additional 1 to 8 radiant damage. As for the prepared spell, pick whatever you wish here in terms of your personal strategy and playstyle. I personally like having Create Food and Water if, in the worst case scenario, I don't micromanage my camp supplies or rests that well. At level 12, to round things out and end things on a good note for us, Crusader's Mantle is a good all-around spell, radiating holy power, embolden your nearby allies, and have them deal additional 1 to 4 radiant damage. And for the feat here, I personally like Elemental Adept, picking specifically lightning. Spells you cast ignore resistance to lightning based damage. In addition, when you deal lightning damage with a spell, you cannot roll a 1. It's very complementary to the features and also the abilities that this subclass provides. And that's all 12 levels of this subclass. But let me know as well if you would pick different feats or spells, and also what your specific strategies and playstyles would be when it comes to leveling up this kind of character. Now, when it comes to specific gear and equipment, I like sticking to the elemental theme of lightning, but specifically lightning charges, which will grant us various bonuses in combat. The headpiece I personally like using is Lifebringer, which grants us Life Charger. When the wearer gains lightning charges, they also gain 3 temporary hit points. May not be much, but also this is pretty good if you really need health in a pinch, and it's good in the early game too. The cloak here, I like using Cloak of the Weave. Gain +1 bonus to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Pretty good defensive and offensive wise. Absorb elements, absorb elemental damage once per short rest, take half damage from the next elemental attack targeting you, and deal an additional 1d6 of that element type on your next attack. So it's a good thing to stack with your lightning based theme too, but also with other elemental damage spells like cold and fire. Now the main piece here, not necessarily armor like traditional paladins, but we'll be using the Wave Mother's Robe. Temperature adjustment, you have a resistance to fire and cold damage, again, giving you a little bit of a blanket coverage for the elemental defenses, and also watery rejuvenation. This is the main theme I want to take a look at here. When the wearer is standing in a water surface at the start of their turn, they heal 1 to 4 hit points, which conveniently, it grants us the spell Create or Destroy Water. It's not necessarily good for tanking, but also it's a good extra amount of health that stacks with Lifebringer here. It also grants us a nice little +1 to AC, so we have that going for us. Gloves of Belligerent Skies is another piece of equipment that I personally find very useful. With Thunderous Conversion, when the wearer deals thunder, lightning, or radiant damage, that's again a good blanket coverage of different types of elemental damages there. Inflict 2 turns of reverberation upon the targets. So with reverberation, the affected entity has -1 penalty to strength, dex, and constitution saving throws per remaining turn. When the entity has 5 or more turns of reverberation, it takes 1 to 4 thunder damage and possibly falling prone. The falling prone part is, in my opinion, the most important one, taking away their turn in battle. Creatures immune to thunder damage, of course, can't receive reverberation. As for the shoe piece here, I personally like Water Sparkers. Electrify water. When the wearer stands in water during combat, it becomes electrified. And with Water Sparks, if the wearer starts their turn on an electrified surface, they gain 3 lightning charges. Now the lightning charges here are going to be incredibly useful for us when it comes to the weapons and also shield pieces here too. But also, we will be getting the Blast Pendant as our necklace here, granting us Lightning Blast. Focus the electricity in your veins to strengthen your next lightning spell or cantrip for 2 turns. This is a good little piece of equipment to help up the damage of all of our spells and cantrips. Ring of Regeneration is just an overall solid piece of equipment to have at the beginning of your turn. Activate and heal 1 to 4 hit points, again stacking with Cloak of the Wave Mother or Wave Mother's Robe, and also Lifebringer too. As for Ring of Arcane Synergy, this grants us synergetic cantrips. When you deal damage with a cantrip, we gain Arcane Synergy for 2 turns, which will stack with the lightning damage done by Jolt Shooter here. This is going to be our range weapon with this bow. Electric Blood, when the wielder deals damage using this weapon, they gain 2 lightning charges. So with the lightning charges, we can use that to provide a lightning aura, consume 3 lightning charges, and release a blast of electricity that damages and jolts nearby enemies. So the lightning charges stacks, it's going to be very useful in gaining more actions of lightning aura and just blasting enemies left and right with electricity. Spell Sparkler is a really nice complement to the electric charges here too. When the wielder deals damage with a spell or cantrip, gain 2 lightning charges. So again, all of these are going hand in hand and providing different synergies with one another to build up those lightning charges, unleash them with lightning aura, and also just overall keep us dealing damage, consistent damage I should say, in battle. Alright friends, that has been my showcasing and character build of the Oath of Storms Paladin subclass. Let me know if there are things that you would pick differently, whether it's terms of leveling, feats, or specific gear and equipment. And also, this opens up a lot of really in-depth discussions on how you would build the character or what you would even multi-class this character with. And also, thank you again so much to the mod author for bringing this class to life and just overall providing a lot of creativity and replayability for us players. I'll definitely be checking out more mod classes from them in the future for separate videos too. And for all the new people who may have come this far in the video, thank you so much for taking the time to check out all the features that this class has to offer. And if you want to join in on more adventures and videos like this in the future, I'd love to have you hit that like, subscribe, and bell icon notifications, friends. And I'll save you a seat at the table for the next few adventures. Take care and farewell.